Hey.
Hi.
Hey. Yeah, I like the speed dating. It was kind of weird at first.
So, Sandra, we are live.
But we are live right now. Okay. This is so funny. Hi. Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
So, hi, everybody. My name is Rabbi Sandra Lawson, and I am the Director of Racial Diversity, Equity, Inclusion for Reconstructing Judaism. I lived in Atlanta for a long time, and it's always good to be back and to spend some time with my dear friend, Rabbi Joshua Lesser.
Sandra, it is so good to be with you. And for folks who don't know me, I am Rabbi Joshua Lesser. I am an Atlanta native. I want to welcome our interpreter. Thanks for being here. I'm an Atlanta native. I'm the emeritus rabbi of Congregation Beit Chaverim. I'm the founder of SOJOURN, the Southern Jewish Resource Network for Gender and Sexual Diversity. And I'm currently a fellow at the Center for Rabbinic Innovation. And together, Sandra and I are your JEDI Night co-hosts for this evening. And we are thrilled to be here.
Yes, and before we begin, in this weird kind of COVID world where we can't be together in person, I find it important to ground us together in prayer and gratitude. And the best blessing that I know to express gratitude comes from our morning liturgy. Moda ani lefanecha ruach chai v'chayam she'uzarta bi nishmati b'chemlecha rabba emunetecha. And I will take some liberties with translating. Thank you, the divine source of all, for breathing life into me, into us, restoring our souls this moment and allowing us to be together. And the last part of this blessing, which is the most awesome part, is that you, the divine source, are awesome.
Mm. It is indeed awesome. And I love that we can be here together as a community despite the COVID challenges on this awesome platform. What a great beginning, the networking, the meditation, the mixology, our awesome DJ. But for a moment, I'd like for us to acknowledge something really important. Before we delve into our agenda tonight, we believe we need to commemorate that today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. The United Nations General Assembly designated January 27th, the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And so tonight, I light this candle as we remember and honor the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust and the millions of other victims who died at the hands of Nazism. So as I light this candle, let us take a moment of silence as we honor their memory. This day was set aside to be a global day to focus on educational programs that promote unity and that help prevent the tragedy that bigotry and hatred can cause when it is left unaddressed. And so in many ways, that takes us to our mission this evening and the work that you do, Sandra.
So I want to start by saying that Judaism is better when it reflects our community, when it reflects our whole community. American Jews are becoming browner, less cis, queer, and more intermarried. There have been a variety of studies over the last 20 years that continue to look at the growing diversity of the American Jewish population. And many of these studies also look at the increasing number of Jews of color in the United States. These studies say that we, as Jews, make up about 2% of the American population. These same studies also point to the growing number of Jews of color, and they put the number of Jews of color somewhere from 8% to 15%, depending on which study you look at. which means the American Jewish community is becoming more racially and ethnically diverse. All of these studies also admit that they undercount Jews of color. One of the most recent studies that looked at one of the most recent demographic studies was the Pew study that came out in late 2020. The Pew study added some additional information that the previous studies did not include. And the Pew study said that 15% of American Jews under the age of 30 are racially, ethnically diverse. So that's a lot of people. Yet, Jews of color continue to face racism and various forms of microaggressions in Jewish community, causing many people to opt out of the Jewish experience. I get Sorry about that. There's some like feedback. I get messages and calls almost daily from Jews of color who are fed up with the racism and microaggressions that they experience in Jewish spaces. These folks desperately want to be part of the Jewish experience, and yet many are opting out. As I said earlier, we are 2% of the population. We can't afford to lose people who actively want to participate in Jewish life. This is important to me and should be important to all of us, because if we don't fix this problem and create spaces of inclusivity and welcoming for Jews, we are going to lose talent, which means we're going to lose future rabbis, future cantors, future leaders, future executive directors. We are losing talent. And the values that we're going to talk about tonight, the values of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, are so critical because Judaism works better. Judaism works better when it reflects the beautiful, awesome rainbow tapestry that is the Jewish people.
Sandra, I think that's so important. And friends who are joining us tonight, we want to see your comments as well. So please feel free to use the stage chat so that you're able to respond. I'm really incredibly moved by our federation because I think that tonight is an important evening for Atlanta Jewish community. It's an important milestone on our Atlanta Jewish community's journey towards deepening our commitment to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. When I returned to Atlanta to serve Congregation Beit Chaverim, our mission then was to serve the LGBT Jewish community and our loved ones. And I soon recognized how essential it was to embrace diversity and inclusion, to strive for equity, and to seek justice in order for our Jewish community to be vital and strong in the ways that Rabbi Sandra mentioned. And I explored with the leadership of our congregation whether our insistence for dignity and equity for LGBT folks in Jewish life could be expanded to include economic diversity, Jews of color, interfaith families, gender diversity, people with disabilities, and you may even find it funny, but truthfully, and for straight folks. This was the enterprise that I wanted to be committed to as a rabbi, not just for Beit Chaverim, but for our entire Atlanta Jewish community. This is the place I grew up, and I want us to be able to live into our fullness. And while that may sound noble, I'm really humbled and a bit embarrassed to admit that I thought that achieving justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion was a destination, something that we could achieve and then move on. Instead, I encountered that doing this work is an ongoing, evergreen practice. I had much more to learn, and that just because I was Jewish and gay, it did not mean that I was an expert on the inclusion and equity of other communities. I was and am a work in progress. And I believe that is true of all of us here tonight, of the Jewish community here in Atlanta. Even tonight's program, in addition to the celebration of what's possible and all of our successes, tonight will inevitably also reveal where we need growth and change. And we shouldn't be embarrassed about it. We should be transparent and work towards that future. We gather tonight with different knowledge and experience. We gather with different histories, experiences, access to power. We gather with different hopes, different disappointments, and different challenges. Some of us are focused on how we can use Jedi values to transform the Jewish community, and others are focused on how we as Jews and our loved ones can use these values to better connect with the world. Not only is there room for all of us are essential, especially those who are not in the room tonight. Tonight will be a success if each of us leave dedicated to a more Jedi-informed community where our leadership and participation represent the vast diversity that is present in the Atlanta Jewish community, and that we honestly acknowledge what has worked well and where change and new commitments are possible. Most importantly is that each of us leave feeling energized to steward our growth and commitment to transforming Jewish Atlanta into a place that lives out these values more robustly with our time, with our talent, and with our financial investments. What you can expect this evening, as I kind of give you an overview, are a few more words of welcome, an introduction to a starting place for shared language around Jedi values, a special panel for social, racial, and gender equity with leaders engaged in this work, and then simultaneous conversations with tonight's Jedi partners on an array of interesting topics, and then next steps for Jewish Atlanta. And with that, let me welcome Eric Robbins, the CEO of our Jewish Atlanta Federation, whose vision to engage us in communal-wide conversation, the front porch, led us to greater clarity for the work that this evening seeks to uplift. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Rabbi Lesser, and nice to meet you, Rabbi Lawson.
It's nice to meet you too.
You in real time as well. As CEO of Jewish Federation in Greater Atlanta, I'm so grateful that you all are spending time with us tonight to learn more about our community's Jedi efforts. It's my hope that you'll amplify these values and bring that energy home to your family, neighborhood, and communities. Federation's historic role is one of uplifting justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Founded at the turn of the century, before acronyms like LGBTQ even existed, before the civil rights movement, and even before women's suffrage. My predecessors managed to navigate in an evolving society while trying to meet pressing community needs. When I took the helm in 2016, I knew we had to reimagine Federation's role in a time of changing leadership, in a time of changing demographics. As was mentioned by Rabbi Lesser, we engaged in the front porch. It was a very engaging and time-consuming process, but it led us through a lot of thought and rethinking about our community. We ended with 4 core impact areas. 1, making Jewish places, and we're doing that throughout the community. 2, inspiring Jewish journeys, and we're doing that, sending more teens to Israel, sending more adults to Israel, sending more college students to Israel, and then creating radically welcoming spaces, which we'll talk a little bit more about tonight. A 4th was moving to global Jewish peoplehood, and a 5th was rising up to strengthen our community and ourselves. And I can't help but to think today on Holocaust Remembrance Day, the dedication we have to our survivors and making sure they can live out their lives with dignity. Looking back 5 years later, it's clear that all of these are modern expressions of Jedi principles. Each one reflects belonging to a commitment to an ever-changing community that American Jews are yearning for. I do, as I said, want to focus on one: creating radically Jewish spaces. In 2018, we embraced inclusivity and diversity to create a Jewish community, an organization that embraces all Jews and their loved ones across a large spectrum of experiences, and that remains a priority today. Federation's forward-thinking values continue to evolve in a role of community philanthropic champion. I'm proud to announce that tonight, as we think about the grants that we're going to give as part of the Innovation Fund, for the first time, looking at Jedi values will be a factor that's considered in all of that grant making. And that should carry into all of our grant making since it's such an important value. As I mentioned, we're not only the community champions, we're also philanthropic champions. And tonight, I'm going to ask you to support this community. Tonight, you're going to see great people, great programs, and I hope you will support those programs in a meaningful way. I also hope that you'll use the crowdfunding link on this app to share out so others will also support these programs. None of this will happen without money. And I want to commend the team led by Russell, who's our innovation guru and leader, for the thought and the great work that they've done on this program. And now I want to introduce my colleague from New York and a member of the Jewish Federation of North America team, Rabbi Isaiah Rothstein. Rabbi?
Thank you so much, Eric. And shalom, friends. My name is Isaiah Rothstein, and I serve as a rabbinic scholar and public affairs advisor for Jewish Federations of North America, and I lead our national efforts on JEDI. And you might know that for more than a century, Jewish federations have existed to alleviate the stressors of many underserved communities in many different times. And today we see it as our responsibility to leverage our strengths and networks to advance justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And what an inspiring evening, just echoing what Eric shared and what our hosts have been sharing and what our leaders have been sharing in the videos earlier. It's an honor to partner with our colleagues from Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta. And really just a big thank you for your creation and inspiration and depth of knowledge and care. And most of all to each of you for being a JEDI beacon in Atlanta and across North America. And friends, we are working toward a culture of belonging for all Jews and our loved ones. And belonging is the heart artery of what it means to build flourishing Jewish communities. And it's only possible when our communities are not only recruiting people into their environments, but retaining us as well. Not only showing diverse voices, but ensuring that our environments are conducive for us to feel that we belong. And that's our aim. And so for us through JFNA and JEDI, we have 3 E's where we focus our energy. One is education. So catalyzing individuals, organizations, and communities to engage in ongoing learning to best evolve our own behaviors, our policies, and procedures. 2 is engagement. Reflect on our own collaborations and our partnerships and how we build an inclusive leadership pipeline. And 3 is empowerment, how we invest time and care and energy and resources to empower individuals and organizations in Jewish life and broader society. And friends, we know that all the work we're doing with JEDI, these are big objectives during increasingly difficult times. And nonetheless, may it be on our watch that we continue to uplift the dreams of our ancestors and maintain our 3,500-year-old tradition as Jewish people to stand for righteousness, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I'm excited for the rest of our program and back to our awesome co-hosts. Thank you.
Josh, you're muted.
I was just saying thank you so much, Rabbi Isaiah Rothstein, for your words. And Eric, we really appreciate the container that we're holding tonight. We're going to move into discussing some of our definitions so that we can begin a first step in creating a shared language. So we're going to bring those on, share them with you, and then we'll have an opportunity for community engagement.
So the J in JEDI is justice. Justice is when the Atlanta Jewish community seeks to identify and remove barriers to opportunity so that all Jews and their loved ones can live a full and dignified life.
Equity. Equity takes difference into account to ensure a fair process and ultimately a fair outcome so that everyone has access to the same opportunities. We commit to creating a community where Jewish Atlantans have an equal opportunity to thrive.
Diversity. Diversity reflects the breadth of the Atlanta Jewish community, encompassing and appreciating the broad tapestry of people, life experiences, and perspectives.
And lastly, we have inclusion. Inclusion fosters a communal spirit of belonging, fairness, and respect by centering, value, and amplifying the voices, perspectives, and styles of all Jews and their loved ones, with an emphasis on those who experience barriers based on their identities. And so, friends, as we put together these definitions so that we here in Jewish Atlanta can have a shared opportunity to speak similar language, we really wanted to create a starting point, that this wasn't necessarily definitive. So your input feels incredibly important. And so tonight we have a fun tool. We're going to invite you to take out your cell phones so that we can get your feedback using this tool called Mentimeter or Menti. So if you go to menti.com and you can see on the screen, there's a code. And if you enter the code, it will allow you to participate in the polls and the questions that we have this evening. So I'm going to invite you to take a few moments to do that, and I will bring on the first question.
So the first question, which one of these values is the biggest focus for your community? Is it justice, equity, diversity, or inclusion? It's fun watching you go up and down. Yes, Josh.
Oh, no. As people are responding, giving them a little bit of time, in the work that you've been doing, what do you feel like you've been addressing a great deal of out in the larger Jewish world?
I think when it comes to these values, I think many people in our society right now, many people in our society and many people in the Jewish community are definitely focused on diversity. And what's interesting, you and I were, when we were talking earlier, I think many in the Jewish community also are spending a lot of time focusing on welcoming, and welcoming is great, but we need to spend a lot more time on inclusivity and making sure that members of the Jewish community feel included and are not made to feel as if they don't belong or as if they're strangers. Great. And so now inclusion is number one.
Yes. At first it looked like justice was lagging behind. And, I think in some ways, justice, which, historically wasn't added to DEI work, most of us who've been doing this work knew diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so, this choice to say actually moving towards addressing these and doing these works. And in our perspective, a Jewish one, that this is a pursuit. This is the lifelong work that I was speaking of.
Yeah.
So let's bring to the next question that I think will deepen what we're talking about. So seeing where we were, which one of these values do you believe should Jewish Atlanta be prioritizing? I know it's hard just to choose one, but it's really helpful to see where you think Jewish Atlanta needs to be putting more resources. Yeah. Because I imagine that we are doing better in some of these areas than others.
Yeah, that's interesting. So for me, and as a DEI director, and working with the value system of reconstructing Judaism, I think it's important, and this is also reflective in our new 5-year strategic plan, that all of these values be woven into every aspect of our organization. And I think that's the direction that many Jewish organizations need to go. They shouldn't see these as, as separate things. They should be part of how our organizations are function.
So it's interesting. People are kind of rallying around inclusion, and I think that there's a way that reflects what you're saying, that these things go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to quickly, so that we can move on to our panel, take this opportunity for people to respond to what is a short-term goal that Jewish Atlanta should pursue regarding these JEDI values. Really interested in what folks think outside and can adjust. Don't be shy.
Proactive and fight against anti.
I'm guessing that's Semitism.
Yes, or anti-demotion. I kind of like
So, I think that it's important to recognize that where we as Jews fit in, and that there are ways that we are part of the larger inclusion out in the world as well. And so being able to advocate for ourselves feels very important. And for me, that needs to be a balance. One of the things that I've said is that when I work out in the larger world on any issue, whether it be racism, whether it be on gender equity, I am also promoting the Jewish community in ways just by my very presence. And so I think that doing this work is part and parcel. Building solidarity is how we fight anti-Semitism.
Yeah. The results are like coming in right now. Pretty there's a lot there. Support existing programs in the Atlanta area that promote JEDI, fighting anti-Semitism, unite and stand together. I just want to, just because I'm going to stop on unite and stand together. It's so important for Jews to stand together. It doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. It doesn't mean we have to have the same politics, but we are one people. And, there's so much out there that can tear people apart and pit people against each other. But I think the Jewish community needs to stand together.
So, the last thing that I'll say about this is that I think that what I'm seeing is really this reflection that there's work that we have to do within the Jewish community, and that so some of what we need to pursue is how to be more inclusive within our communities, our organizations, our congregations, and that we as Jews have values that we want to bring. We want to bring our Jewish values so that the world can be more inclusive and that there is equity, that equity is part of Jewish values and what our Torah advocates.
Yeah.
So I think we're at time for this piece, and I really appreciate all of the thoughtfulness of this. And this allows us to capture people's ideas. And now it's my pleasure to continue our program by introducing the Adam Scott Cadranel panel for social, racial, and gender equity. This conversation is named in honor of the memory of Adam Scott Cadranel. May their memory be a blessing, who sadly passed away almost 1 year ago after a courageous battle with cancer. Adam was a true light in the world, living with passion, love, and dignity. They had a dedicated concern for the members of our community on the margins with less access and opportunity. Adam inspired others to share the same concern. And so it's really appropriate that we have a panel in their memory this evening. We want to thank the Cadranel family and everyone who has contributed to Adam's Fund for their generous donation to the JEDI Night investment pool. And we want to recognize Adam's beautiful legacy by facilitating a conversation between community leaders that really exemplify those values. So it's my pleasure to welcome to our stage Billy Planer from Etgar 36. Hey, Billy. Jada Garrett from Lashon. Welcome, Jada. And McKenzie Wren from the Southern Jewish Resource Network, or SOJOURN. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
So good to be here.
And again, in order for our larger community to participate, please do not be shy. Add your comments into in your reflections into our stage chat. So friends, what I'd love to do is to take the opportunity for each of you to share briefly your organization's mission. Jada, I'm going to invite you to start, and maybe McKenzie, you'll follow, and then Billy, you'll wrap this question up.
Sure, thank you. First, I would like to thank the Cadranel family for creating such a thoughtful fund in Adam's memory. I'm here representing Lashon, which means in every language, and our mission is to spread awareness of and celebrate the historical diversity of Jews and to amplify the voices of Jews of color.
McKenzie, I'm going to turn it to you.
Yeah, great. Hello, and thank you. And I echo what Jada just said. I am representing SOJOURN, which is the Southern Jewish Resource Network for Gender and Sexual Diversity. And we are the American South's resource for Jewish and LGBTQ plus programming, education, support, and advocacy. And our mission is to advance LGBTQ plus, which we refer to as gender and sexual diversity, affirmation and empowerment across the South. Billy?
All right, thank you. It's an honor to be here with this panel of organizations. And I represent Etgar 36. I created Etgar 36. Etgar is the Hebrew word for challenge. And what my organization does is we take teenagers on a summer cross-country journey, 36 days across America, where they learn the challenge of discovering their voice, their power to create change by meeting with all sides of organization, all sides of political issues. And during the academic year, we take groups from teenagers all the way up to people who have not been in high school for a long time on civil rights journeys. And the challenge is to discover that we are all connected and that my life is better when your life is better.
So Billy, I want to stay with you for a moment. What successes around equity, justice, inclusion, and diversity have you noted in Jewish Atlanta over the course of your leadership over all these years?
Well, one of the things that I've definitely noticed throughout this whole time, when I created Etgar 20 years ago, the kind of energy around social entrepreneurship, which is doing a lot of work in the JEDI space, was just not there. The infrastructure, the support wasn't there, and the understanding of things outside the communal boxes that we had. And so I think it's been amazing to watch that energy and support develop over 20 years and watch the city of Atlanta just explode from things that are created here, but also coming from the rest of the country to be represented here in Atlanta.
Great. McKenzie, I'm wondering if you would chime in as well. What have you seen from your perspective?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to step back in time for a moment and to recognize that SOJOURN was actually founded in 2001 as the Rainbow Center by our very own Rabbi Josh, and then it incorporated and became its own entity later. And our beloved executive director, Rebecca Staple-Wax, took over about 17 years ago. And so it's such so important to note that in the course of this time, just using, for example, visibility as an example, the very first Pride Parade, there was really no Jewish representation whatsoever. I think that Rebecca and her family were really the first families out there marching under a Jewish banner for Pride. And in 2018, we had over 52 Jewish partners showing up for the Pride Parade and hundreds of people. And it's known as the biggest Jewish Pride coalition ever in the South. We also know that more and more synagogues are being explicit in their affirmation of welcoming and inclusion. And we saw in the last bit that inclusion is a big thing. And for gender and sexually diverse people to not feel welcomed or to be separated from their Judaism because of their gender identity or their sexual orientation harms all Jews. And so that there has been a great increase of welcoming in many, many synagogues. More synagogues are willing to perform same-sex marriages. More synagogues are welcoming of families with gender and sexually diverse parents. Language is changing, be mitzvah instead of gendered bar and bat mitzvah. And so there's a lot of work that has changed. And our specific work and the idea that Jewish communities should welcome and celebrate GSD members used to be really controversial, like a decade ago, not even, I would say 10 years ago, a decade. And we actually got a lot of pushback for that. And were, I'll leave it a lot of pushback. But things have changed now, and we see this greater sense of inclusion and many more people willing to embrace and explore how to be more welcoming for gender and sexually diverse people.
I really appreciate that, McKenzie, and I just want to really honor and acknowledge Federation's role in the start of the Rainbow Center and really under at that time Ellen Mazur's leadership, the stewardship of making sure that program existed, and then the communal partners that wrapped around. It's been a really amazing Atlanta story. But you began to point towards where there may be areas that are still ripe for progress. And Jada, I wanted to ask you, from your perspective, what are those areas that you're seeing from your work with Lashon?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So we've been working with educational institutions and teachers who are working to review all aspects of their curriculum to find ways to make it more diverse and more inclusive. For example, SIG Education and Programming. SIG is an Ethiopian Jewish holiday that is recognized as a national Israeli Jewish holiday. I would love to see this holiday on our calendars here in Atlanta too.
Great. I appreciate that. And so lastly, this is going to be for each of you. If you could share, what is the desired legacy for you and your organization? And how will you use the investment from these funds? McKenzie, I'll start with you, then toss it to Jada, and then Billy, you'll wrap us up.
Okay, thank you. And first of all, again, to really acknowledge and honor the work of the Cadranel family in the JEDI Night experience. So really, when we think about our legacy in the South, we want gender and sexually diverse Jews throughout the South to feel seen, held, celebrated, included, normalized in our Jewish communities. We want there to never be any doubt that when someone comes out or joins a new Jewish space in the South, that they can't be their full self. And we're an outward-facing organization, so we don't want to provide everything that gender and sexually diverse Jews in the South need, and we want to give the communities what they need and the educational resources to affirm the folks who are already in their communities. And finally, our legacy through this particular opportunity it's really continuing the work of spreading resources and continuing to reach out across the South. We have a big presence in Atlanta. We have partnerships in Birmingham and in Jackson, Mississippi. We're making inroads into Houston. There's a lot of the South left, and there is a lot of need all across the South for this work. And we see homophobic instances all across the South, and even in Athens, Georgia, there was one recently where there was a flag. A child wrote "Gay is good," and it was an art project, and that was taken down. And the rainbow flag was aligned with being like a swastika. Right, so there's an incredible amount of work that we need to do, both in lifting up gender and sexually diverse people, as well as confronting anti-Semitism and the link between anti-Semitism and homophobia.
Awesome. How about you, Jada?
So my personal legacy, I want my Black and Latinx 13-year-old daughter and others that look like her to truly feel accepted and at home in all Jewish spaces. And that's also the legacy of Behol Lashon. We want to create a culture of belonging here where all Jews of color are heard, seen, valued, respected, have a seat at the table, are seen in leadership. And so it's my wish that Jewish Atlanta becomes more engaged in activities that make us happy, that make our world, our community a better place. And so for everyone here, thank you so much for being here. And I want you to use your passion, just as Adam did when they co-created Sittersphere. I want you to use your passion to drive that impact to your community and make this place a better world.
Thank you. I love that legacy. Billy, you're going to wrap us up.
All right.
2 minutes.
Yes. I hope that to use this as a springboard to get more people on a bus, because I think when you engage with people who you may think are the other, they go from being the other to just another. And you realize how easy it is to just start to have a discussion with somebody who doesn't look like you, think like you, pray like you, love like you, vote like you. And that's how we're going to move, because when you can see yourself in the other, then whom can you harm? And when you see people as the other, that's how you are able to make them sit at the back of the bus, deny the other the right to marry, pay the other less than you would a male, imprison the other at a higher rate than other people. And it's how the other can get murdered on an American street. So I think my legacy, what I want Etgar 36's legacy to be, is to really make people comfortable having the uncomfortable conversations in a civil and humane way, so that we realize my life is wrapped up in your life. And it seems to me that that's Adam's legacy as well, and what I've read about Adam. And I think Adam would have liked to have been on the bus, and I would have liked to have seen Adam on the bus.
Yes. I so appreciate that, Billy. And I love that part of the work that you're doing is engaging our next generations and future leaders with that openness. And so it has me really optimistic for the future of our Atlanta Jewish community. So thank you so much. I really want to appreciate all of you, Jada, McKenzie, Billy, for your candor this evening, for your commitment to the work that you're doing. It's not always comfortable, and you're modeling how we can step into discomfort and really continue and commit to our growth. So thank you on behalf of our Jewish community. You have been really helpful in honoring what has taken place and outlining some of the work that lies ahead for us. And in speaking of that work, we have assembled a great series of sessions which will start almost immediately at 8:10 and go till 8:40. And it's comprised of many representatives from tonight's partners to discuss the work that they're hoping to do and how they wish to deepen Jedi values. So if you look to the left side of your screen, you will see the sessions icon. After I finish speaking, not before, click that icon and you will see all of your choices. Because it's Jedi Night, you'll see different images of Star Wars characters, but it will also be a description. Choose an area of interest. And the great thing about Hop In is that you can pay attention for a little while and then choose to hop out and go into another room. So explore, join the conversation. Now go press that button and enjoy. And my group, give me a second to hop into a whole other space. We will join back together at 8:40. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
forget about the past. Let's romance. It's a brand new day, so let's get away. So get on up. So get on up. So get on up. So get on up. So put a smile on your face and let us dance the night away. You can be a star. So get on up. So get on up. So get on up. So get on up. Let the spotlight shine on me and you. So let us have some fun. We just begun. The night is young, so let us dance till dawn. So get on up. So get on up. So get on up. So get on up. You can be a star.
Hey, friends. I can only imagine that all of the sessions were as lively and thoughtful. I really hope that people got something out of this evening, and that tonight is really a taste of what is possible, that it is one point on a continuing, ongoing journey. So thank you. We're going to hear from Rich Walter from Federation in a moment to begin to close us out. Here you are. Oh, here's our interpreter. And I also just want to reflect with folks that please continue to use the chats and say your goodbyes, share some of the highlights of the evening. Take this last time to connect. I'm going to turn it over to Rabbi Sandra.
This was a really fun night, and way shorter than which is good. It's always good if it's short, if it feels shorter than it should be. If you can't tell by now from comments I've said, I really love our morning liturgy. In fact, most of the prayers that I've written and songs that I've written reflect prayers from our morning liturgy. So I'm going to offer a prayer, a song, and because it is a prayer, I don't often stick to my own words that I've written. And it's another blessing of gratitude. Eloheinu shamash natatabi, thanking divine source for creating us exactly who we're supposed to be, creating us pure. And while I'm doing this, if you could,
Sandra,
yeah,
we have found our Federation representative.
Okay, good.
Who's gonna before you? We want to close with song.
Yes, that's great.
And so I want to save that as we bring our host Richard on.
Hi, Richard.
Welcome.
Thanks, everyone. I apologize. Our panel was which I was moderating went a little bit long.
No worries.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rich Walter. I'm the Chief of Programs and Grant Making at Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta. Honored to be here and participate in this program. I really just want to help close by thanking everyone for participating in this important event. I specifically want to thank Russell Gottschalk, our Director of Innovation, for his vision and leadership in making it happen. To our Innovation Advisory Committee and its chairs, Mark Rothberg, Ryan Silberman, and Jill Bernstein, for their ongoing support. To all of our amazing presenters and panelists tonight, and the organizations and initiatives for their amazing work in addressing justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. If I have one message to deliver tonight, it's that tonight is not the end of Federation and certainly not our community's work in the JEDI space. We will continue to work with our leadership, staff, and partners in publicizing the definitions we shared, amplifying the work of tonight's presenters, offering trainings for staff and lay leadership across our community, and committing to creating protocols in our grant making and programmatic activity. I welcome and invite everyone who's participated tonight to join us in this work as we strive to ensure that our community is one that is welcoming to all. The first century before the Common Era sage Hillel wrote in Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our father, Al tifros min hatzibur, do not separate yourself from the community. Hillel is reminding us that to truly experience the joy and meaning of Judaism, one must do so with others. And I think tonight has taught us that not only does it need to be with others, but with a broad tent in terms of who participates and who we are welcoming in inclusion. No matter what differences we may have from each other, our strength is in our togetherness. Judaism does not happen in isolation. And the work of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion is yet another way that we should strive to find strength in our community while celebrating and acknowledging the unique contributions made by all. I also want to extend an invitation if you're still interested in continuing conversation. Tomorrow, our colleagues at the Atlanta Jewish Foundation will be hosting their annual Balzer Symposium. It is a virtual event, and I know that the link is being posted in the chat. Tomorrow's program will focus on impact investing, a general investment strategy that seeks to generate financial returns while also creating a positive social or environmental impact. Investors who follow impact investing consider a company's commitment to corporate social responsibility or the duty to positively serve society as a whole. So I encourage you to continue the conversation, continue to participate. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to turn it back to Rabbi Lesser.
So, again, thank you, Rich. I really appreciate Federation's commitment. I appreciate everyone's commitment tonight. And I really want to say that it was wonderful working with Russell to help make this evening's vision come to fruition. And any opportunity to work with my best friend, my sister, Rabbi Sandra Lawson, makes me happy. So thank you for that opportunity. And I want to invite her back on to close us out.
Thank you, Josh. Yes, it's always good. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, all of you, for letting me to virtually come home for a little bit. I'm going to offer this prayer blessing, if you can use the stage chat to offer something that you're grateful for tonight, or some takeaway that you got, and so we can lift those up. Aloha, Neshama, Shanata, Tabi, Tehora, We spend most of our lives not caring about what we're supposed to believe. All I know is our lives is where they're supposed to be. You and I, we've come a long way, and our lives are happy and free. 'Cause you created me, and you shaped me, and someday you'll take this from me. Aloha, Neshama, Shanata, Tabi, Tehora, Aloha, Neshama, Shanata, Tabi, Thank you.
you.